behalf of the S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, I want to wish the Bubb Report continued success and growth as they celebrate their 4th year anniversary. For the past 4 years, the Bubb Report has been a beacon for intellectually stimulating and thought-provoking weekly content. We look forward to hearing more of those engaging discussions and insightful thought analysis. Once again, happy 4th year anniversary from the S.A. Johnson Funeral Home.
Good morning, Dr. Bubb. Best wishes coming to you from St. George's, Grenada on your 4th anniversary of the Bubb Report. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate you on the job that you have done and are doing to highlight issues that are important to us and our society and keeping us and Grenadians in the diaspora in the loop, informed. Keep up the good work and God bless many, many more years to come.
Dr. Kellon Bubb, the Bubb Report. This is Harold Paisidi, the big one. Wishing you, Dr. Bubb, all congratulations on the 4th anniversary of the Bubb Report. I love the in-depth nature of the discussions, and we need it now more than ever. So keep up the great work in the spirit of George Grant, as you always say. 4th anniversary to Dr. Kellon Bubb on the Bubb Report. Keep on keeping on. We love the discussion. We need the discussion. From the big one, all the best. Happy 4th.
Allow me this opportunity to congratulate Dr. Kellon Bubb and his highly competent and professional team on this, the 4th anniversary of the Bubb Report. I have been thoroughly impressed by the quality of your reporting, anchored in objectivity, balance, and a probing interrogation of issues relevant to Grenada and the wider community. The team of persons that you bring to interrogate and dissect the issues that you're presenting have added a great fillip to your programming. I wanted to use this opportunity to urge that you continue along this very progressive and high quality path as you enter your 5th year. Congratulations, best wishes, Dr. Nigel Graves-Sandy, Registrar of the University of Ghana.
Hi, Kellon. Well. I am so very proud of you and your achievements. I know that you're celebrating 4 years with the Bubb Report. And I remember when you started and where you are today. What an achievement. Great program. I like the way that you continue to soar and continue to bring good information. Your interviews are impeccable. I know that sometimes it's challenging, but you have the strength, the tenacity to endure, and that in itself is admirable. So I want to take this opportunity to wish you your special and happy anniversary on your 4 years, and I hope that the 4 will be multiplied by 100 more. Good luck, my dearest, and all the best for the future. Keep it up. Wonderful.
Hi, Dr. Bubb, Dr. Kellon Bubb. I want to congratulate you and your very, very capable team on 4 years of the Bubb Report. A fantastic program. It is doing great for the Grenadian community and the region as a whole. You cover all topics. There is nothing off limits for you, whether it's politics, whether it's trade unionism, whether it's science, whether it's religion, whether it's social issues. Nothing is off limits. In addition to that, the quality of your guests, I must say, sitting down on a Sunday morning, it is very educational and informative. But I know that position is not unique to me. I know it's a lot of people share the same feeling. So I want to just take the opportunity as a Grenadian to tell you that you're doing a great job and for you to continue. Your program is a cut above in terms of its objectivity and your desire and quest to find truth and to educate the public at large. So continue the good works, all right?
To Kellon and the entire team at the Bubb Report, congratulations on your 4th anniversary. It's been great listening to you. You are a worthy successor to the great Jerry Grant. You guys are doing a great job. Every time I've been on your program, you're all very well prepared, very well researched, and it's been fun being with you guys. I wish you all the best. Keep up the great work in educating Grenada and beyond. All the very best from Brian Samuel, by the way, author of Song for My Father, A West Indian Journey.
Hello, everyone, and a pleasant Sunday to all of you. This is the anniversary stream of the Bubb Report, and again, we're happy that you can join us today for yet another installment of this very important Grenadian diasporic program. I'm your humble host, Dr. Kellen Bubb, wishing this platform a happy 4th anniversary on this our anniversary program. Now, while I did not have a special edition planned, I do certainly thank all of you who reached out to congratulate us on our ability to continue to host this program, on the work that we continue to do in respect of giving back to Grenada. Rest assured, folks, our commitment to quality and well-researched programming remains. This program is not about me, but it's about our vast and wide cross-section of Grenadian and Caribbean nationals who play an important and critical role in advancing the ideals of the Grenadian and Caribbean civilization. This program is about working hard to ensure that all sides of national issues can have a neutral and dispassionate platform to make sense of and debate the issues affecting our country's development. It is about presenting nuanced, evidence-based information to our audiences so that they can be better informed on how decisions affect them at the end of the day. I say cheers to the Bubb Report and all those who make it possible. Please remember to share this week's live stream as well, as this is a very important conversation we'll be having in respect of marijuana decriminalization and reform in Grenada. Now, for this program, we sit with some key players and decision makers in Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as Grenada attempts to carve a path for marijuana decriminalization. For more than 5 years, both the opposition and current administration have made grand declarations with respect to decriminalizing or legalizing marijuana in the state of Grenada. A hodgepodge of commissions, committees, and legislative frameworks have been touted, with no singular implementation framework yet proposed. Now let's take a look at the history of what was said in the past by some of the decision makers whose decisions will inform how Grenada would proceed with its own marijuana framework. Let's take a look at this.
The legislations from the various countries, St. Vincent, Jamaica, Canada, by the middle of the year we should have a draft in terms of, so we have given the commission one year to put all the necessary structures in place. Within that year we are hoping that we'll be able to decriminalize the marijuana so that people maybe would not, the police and the people just with a little 2 ounce and them would not be because you cannot be pushing the legalization of marijuana and every Monday morning you go to the courthouses, 12 and 15 young men standing in front of
a mandate to work with. We would expect that committee to fulfill its mandate so that by September of this year, the government will be provided with an objective final report with recommendations on the way forward for our cannabis industry here in Grenada. I met with the committee this morning. I went through with them the mandate that was given to them by Cabinet, and I received the commitment from all committee members to work with alacrity to have the mandate fulfilled within the time period as prescribed by the Cabinet.
Well, let me say this. I mean, the CARICOM report was tabled. I think for us, crucially, we have to view, and we use the word cannabis, but I'd probably say hemp. I think we need to view the hemp industry.
Why don't you say cannabis or weed or marijuana?
Because historically,
why are you being politically correct about that?
No, it's not, because you have to understand language and the emotive nature of it. Historically, cannabis or weed has been associated purely with the entertainment or getting high aspect of marijuana use, or for that matter, marijuana abuse, and the criminality or non-criminality of smoking. Let's face it. I'm saying when we talk about the hemp industry here now, we are talking about an economic plant that has a varied use. And then we are talking essentially about medical marijuana and exploiting that from an economic point of view. And so critically, that is what the focus has to be on. The focus has to be on how do we exploit the plant from a medical and from an economic point of view.
But I have seen too many problems related to drug abuse and the problems that creates. And I think legalization could certainly lead to more abuse and so on. And therefore, I am not sure that, certainly I personally would not initiate it. And I certainly would not vote for it. You and I know there's a lot of medicine that you have to have prescription for, because they know the abuse that could occur outside there. So I think we'll be stretching for. I'm not saying maybe 10, 15 years from now you may see it. But at this point in time, I think it would be a mistake.
That is why the Caribbean Commission report is something that we've looked at. And in fact, this legislation was in Parliament in December. And I'm surprised that persons are not aware of that, because it was announced. I keep saying it, that we've late for first reading. In fact, I've been in Parliament of Grenada for just around 19, going on 20 years, and it's the first time that there's been a bit, not the first time, it's one of the few times, I should say, that a bill was late for first reading without going to second reading. Even while I was in both governments, both parties. So we've laid it in Parliament for first reading to allow these discussions to take place. And for how long it takes place, we never know.
And this week on our program, we welcome agriculture ministers from Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Honorable Lennox Andrews and the Honorable Saboto Caesar, respectively, Cannabis Committee Chairperson Anselm Clouden in Grenada, marijuana advocate Saisha Williams, and the CEO of the Medical Cannabis Authority of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Gerald Thompson. Gentlemen, welcome to this week's edition of the Bubb Report. Shall we say that this is perhaps a star-studded panel here in respect of discussing the way forward for cannabis regularization, reform, legalization, decriminalization, however you want to put it. But I believe it would be important for me to begin with the Minister of Agriculture, the newly minted Minister for Agriculture, Mr. Lennox Andrews. I would say this, however, that I did attempt to get your sparring partner from Parliament to be on the program this week. That's Mr. Peter David. But unfortunately, Mr. David had perhaps other pressing constituency and legal matters to deal with. But it would have been very good to have the both of you, because I've been paying attention with great interest to your banter, your very friendly banter, and it seems as though you guys go way back to Parliament. But I want to begin, Mr. Andrews, Minister of Agriculture here. Big picture. If you're able to hear me, Mr. Andrew, are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Very well, very well. Big picture. Now, I know you're also the minister responsible for economic development in Grenada. Where do you see, out of all of the processes that we're dealing with now, where do you see marijuana being in the big economic picture for Grenada?
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr. Kellen Bubb. And let me say a very pleasant good morning to you and to all of your listeners, wherever they may be. And I also want to begin by saying thank you for this opportunity, because you did ask of me some time ago when we had a press conference on our recent visit to Cuba.
Yes.
And I indicated to you, perhaps not with the best of vocabulary, that we should have a separate program in which we can in which I can address this matter in some detail. And therefore, I am happy that the opportunity is given us now to all of us on your panel to share our views. And in particular, I will want to present government's position on this matter. Now, relative to your question points to the fact that as a government, we are about transformation. And transformation simply means, from that point of view, identifying and creating new sectors of the economy that can complement the traditional sectors of agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, and so on. And in this regard, we see the marijuana industry or the cannabis industry as one just industry, another sector that can add to the many different sectors that the economy of Grenada depends on, that our GDP or our gross domestic depends on. So that in the broader picture, we're seeing it as another industry in keeping with our transformation agenda, another industry that we are going to focus on to provide more income, employment, and output for our people so that we can, in the end, have a much higher living standard and we can raise the standard of living of our people. So, as you know, we would have focusing on the creative industries, for example, as one such new industry that we want to focus on to transform our economy. The marijuana industry, the cannabis industry is another one that we can focus on to transform our economy and to widen the economic base of our country. And it falls within my ambit as a Minister for Economic Development, meaning that we don't have to depend exclusively, as time goes by, on the traditional sectors of our economy to contribute to our economy. But we can, in fact, identify those new industries that can provide income, employment, and output for our people and add to the gamut of industries that we depend on as a country and as a people to farm our gross domestic product. Now, our decision of our government is very much in keeping with the 2018 report, by CARICOM, in which is entitled in part Safeguarding Our Future by utilizing safe legal means to develop our marijuana industry. And what CARICOM is in fact saying is that the CARICOM itself is seeing that marijuana industry, that cannabis industry, as one industry that countries within our region can in fact use to expand our economy, to expand our economic base, and to create more jobs, more income, and of course, increase our gross domestic product. And that's, Dr. Kellen Bubb, is a broad picture in which we are seeing this discussion this morning.
Very well, excellent. Now, and speaking of that big picture, again, I did play several clips coming in here, and I'm going to bring in Mr. Clouden. And Mr. Clouden, I'm going to put you in, shall we say, the line of cross-examination. As an attorney, you know what cross-examination is all about, sir. And of course, you saw a lot of those clips there. But on the heels of the 2022 election, the newly installed administration announced the establishment of a cannabis commission in which members were expected to hold broad-based consultations and engage in public awareness on legalizing cannabis and to prepare a final report with advice on the design of a new legislative and regulatory framework to legalize cannabis for its production and sale. I'm quoting now from the release that was published then. Now, one of the remits of that commission was to present a report on your findings. Now, Mr. Clouden, Rolanda McQueen, who was part of that first commission, apparently she's no longer part of it. We didn't hear any report. There were, to my knowledge, there were no findings or commission done, no findings of the work of the commission done and presented to the Grenadian people until Minister Lennox Andrews announced this new committee. Now, the question is, why was there no report on the work done of the commission? And how is this new committee different from the commission that was initially established back in 2022?
Yes. Well, let me begin by extending heartfelt congratulations to you, Dr. Bubb, and your program on its fourth anniversary.
Yes, sir.
Let me say this. Initially, the commission was constituted. It was large in numbers, too large, in my own perception, is to arrive at any consensus in a general context. However, I must say that we were able to submit to the appropriate authorities an amended, what we call the Drug Prevention and Control Amendment Bill. And that bill sought to, as it were, amend the Principal Act, which is the Drug Prevention and Control Act, as is well known, a draconian piece of legislation that penalize persons found with limited quantities of ganja, marijuana, cannabis, whichever. And you were subject to very, very severe penalties, irrespective of the quantity. As a matter of fact, the Section 6 of that act, we had suggested that it be repealed to bring immediate relief to young people who were being saddled with criminal records for very simple possession, 2 or 3 marijuana cigarettes. Cultivation, again, we were concerned that, look, we have a Rastafarian community that relies on cannabis for sacramental and religious purposes. Following the CARICOM report of 2018, one of the key recommendations were, 1, special provisions should be made to protect religious rights in the new regime. It goes on further. In public places of smoking, with appropriate exceptions for the Rastafarian on religious grounds. Well, let me read from the top of it. Restrictions.
Yes, Mr. Clouden, if you're just able to, because we're not seeing your face at all, so I'm not sure if you're able to
yes.
adjust this way. Yeah. No,
Very
the
well.
other way, the other way, the other way, the other way. Very well, so we can see you. I hope it's not not in the opposite direction. There you go.
Okay.
Much better.
Okay there,
yes.
am I?
Yes,
well.
yes, you are.
You.
Go ahead and read, sir. Yes.
So that CARICOM had recommended that special considerations be given to the Rastafarian community with respect to the use of cannabis for religious and sacramental purposes. Now, Antigua was indeed instrumental in giving some guidance in the legislative framework to the use of cannabis by the Rastafarian community, the permitted use for religious purposes, and also sacramental dispensaries, and the fact that they could cultivate at their tabernacle no limited quantity for sacrament and the like. So that we had debated this. There were a number of the brethren on the commission, and that too was submitted by way of the draft amended bill. And we also looked at amending the provisions of sections 6, sections 11 of the Act dealing with cultivation, because it was felt in the commission at the time, and I was just the advisor then to the Attorney General, that you can't start a seed bank. You cannot speak of quality consideration if you don't experiment with planting. So that in assessing the validity of this option we had suggested to the government that would have enhanced and protect public health, public safety by establishing strict safety and product quality requirements in the first instance. So you have to plant it, and scientifically, hopefully the St. George's University and the science department may partner with the government to do the necessary research, we hope. And as a consequence, we recommended that Section 11 be amended to permit a certain amount of trees that could be planted, both for medicinal in the first instance, because as St. Vincent has experimented successfully, scientifically also, they have a thriving they have a
medicinal
cannabis, medicinal.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Medicinal marijuana authority that regulates.
That's correct, Dr. Thompson. I just want
of the product. Yes.
That's correct.
There were certain aspects of the amended bill that we hoped would have resulted in an amendment to the principal legislation. Let me read something to you. Yes,
Mr. Clouden. Before you go on, I do have to get opening salvo comments from the other guests. But definitely we have to get, because we will be getting into the weeds in respect of the underbelly of what the legislative framework should look like, against the backdrop that we also have a legislation that was tabled by the previous administration. So we're going to talk about the differences there and the nuances there. But Dr. Thompson, I want to bring you, but before I bring you in, I do want to bring in Mr. Saisha Williams. Welcome to the Bubb Report, sir, again. You have been, shall we say, a fierce advocate for the dignity of the Rastafarian movement in respect of ensuring that restitution and restorative justice can be brought to them, given how they have been criminalized by this issue, as well as just in general being a fierce advocate for ensuring that Grenada can be front and center in this. Now, based on the opening comments that you heard here, Mr. Williams, I just want you to offer your opening comments as well.
First of all, good morning to everyone, and congratulations, Kellan, on being here. You've been doing a bang-up job, by the way. In terms of what we've heard,
you have been a very valuable guest here before, so thank you for also being a part of the Bubb Report family.
Thanks for allowing me to be part. I'm proud.
Yes, sir.
In terms of what we've heard so far, the overarching attitude, if you were to phrase it that way in Grenada right now, from most of the people interested in what's happening in the cannabis industry, is an attitude of confusion, disappointment, almost disillusionment, based on what was said by many of the leaders of the two parties, the decisions that was made by both parties. It behooves us as to why something hasn't been done. And I will put this out there and you will take it further with the panelists on here as well. One of the simplest things that could be done in reference to the cannabis problem in Grenada that will allow space, time, and the room to create a robust, well-rounded, well-intended cannabis regime in terms of from the legal framework would be to reclassify cannabis in Grenada. A simple decision is reclassifying, just like America is about to do right now in terms of rescheduling from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 substance. If and when we were to reclassify cannabis in Grenada, that would not take a lot of work. It doesn't take a committee to get that done. Once that is done, that will free up law enforcement and the public as Brother Clouden was saying, in terms of if you wanted to explore or exploit certain things of this plant, we have to get started. To get started, the law needs to change. Hence the confusion and the disillusionment, because everyone from both parties have said they want this done. And what we're seeing is that the things that can be done, the decisions that can be made to get these things done really easily and effectively, are not being done. And one of those things is something as simple as just reclassifying the plant so that it's taken from the schedule that it's at right now and put into a place where people can explore and exploit, whether they want to do seed banks, as was mentioned earlier, or even dispensaries. And in that way, it will give the government, whatever administration is in power, the time to create what we envision would be a holistic approach towards cannabis and not a piecemeal approach. So far, both administrations have put forward suggestions, but both of it is piecemeal. Medical cannabis is a gimmick. It was used to change federal law in America. That is done. It was used to change the UN Convention. That is done. You don't need to do the gimmick of medical cannabis anymore. What we need to do, as the CARICOM report has suggested, is to take a serious look at cannabis and what is actually causing issues in the different countries. As the minister that you mentioned earlier said, every Monday morning, seeing these young men and women in front of the courthouse, they're not up there for medical marijuana. They're up there for recreational marijuana. And the elephant in the room is the thing we haven't addressed. So if we were to reclassify, it would give the governments and the people in relevant authority the space and time to create these bills, to create these laws, so that we're not just picking and choosing and then have to go back and readjust. And so that's how.
Let me bring in Dr. Thompson here, who is in fact the chairperson, the CEO of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Medical Cannabis Authority. And I notice here the operative word, is medical cannabis. Dr. Thompson, Mr. Williams is saying that medical cannabis is a gimmick. And so part of your opening salvo here, I want you to articulate why St. Vincent went the route of medical cannabis as opposed to reclassifying marijuana in the way that Mr. Williams just articulated.
Yes, I'm really pleased he's brought that up. Let me start with 2016. The United Nations had a very important convention called UN Gas. And they made a declaration that besides the usual thing with drug policy of supply reduction, demand reduction, that there must be decriminalization, depenalization, and attention to human rights. Before that, there was spraying, there was a lot of discrimination to various entities, as well as there wasn't a focus on some of the harm reduction issues that needed to be done. Now, then we had the CARICOM report of 2018 that St. Vincent and the Grenadines really fully subscribed to. And you could say at the end of 2018, we legalized medicinal cannabis. Now, we did not just amend the Drug Prevention and Misuse Act. We did that, which served with the decriminalization, depenalization, and the amount that one could use on a daily basis and have in their possession. But we created a new act that created the regulatory process, which would then orient things to export and also comply with the international treaties that exist. Now, I want to say that we are now a mature destination or jurisdiction with respect to medicinal cannabis. We have legal banking. We have been able to export. We have established dispensaries and also the concept of consumption lounges. And we cater not only in terms of export of product, but also as visitors come, that whole concept of being able to export to visitors as their right. Now, let me say that in 2020, a very important thing took place. At the UN, they had a vote on whether they should reclassify medicinal cannabis. It failed by just a few votes. The United States, several other nations, Jamaica, who was the country that represented the Caribbean, voted in favor of the reclassification. It failed. And so cannabis still lies in Schedule 1, one of the most stringent schedules. Luckily and fortunately, they took cannabis out of Schedule 4, which is an even more restrictive schedule that said cannabis had no medical value whatsoever. Now, as a medical doctor and infectious disease specialist over the years, I want to say here publicly that the Rastafari were right. Early on in my own medical career, I did not believe that cannabis had medical benefits. And when I practiced in the United States, I had a number of patients who increasingly started to use cannabis for their weight gain, to stimulate their appetite. And I saw the benefits. I became something of a convert. But I would say that over the years, the discrimination that has been taken. Now, in medical school, I was never taught about medical cannabis. I was never taught.
Well, perhaps, Dr. Thompson, that's because you were taught in a Western medical school.
I want to sadly say in the Caribbean too, and all over the world.
But of course, the Caribbean is also Western. Yes, of course.
Let me say, the discovery.
that aside.
I know. The discovery of how cannabis works only occurred in 1995. I was long out of medical school, and we discovered that in our bodies, there's an endocannabinoid system that controls our mood, our appetite, our food, our pain threshold, a number of things. And so in St. Vincent, we have permitted the use of cannabis for over 20 medical conditions. Now, this is where it comes in. The fact that the UN denied the reclassification, it's very interesting that the United States is now looking to reclassify. But the United States at the federal level is not looking to legalize at the federal level. They're looking to essentially reclassify as a form of medicinal cannabis. They're still within that framework. Now, that may set off a chain reaction where throughout the Caribbean, in our Drug Prevention and Misuse Act, we also have measures by which we could reclassify too. But nevertheless, reclassification of cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 doesn't legalize it for recreational use. It is still within the framework of medical use. It's just that it's now considered not to be restricted. Now, for the United States, it's important because drugs that are in Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 are controlled federally. And you cannot ship them. You can't put them on a plane. You can't put them on a boat. You can't move them from one state to another. There can be no legal banking. Now, St. Vincent has been lucky. We've been able to establish legal bank. We're the only island in the Caribbean that has done so. Now, I want to say that, I know time is short, that on the 19th of August, various countries from the Caribbean came together in St. Lucia, Jamaica, Barbados, Antigua, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent, and we established a regulatory cannabis forum to help ensure that the Caribbean, now it's been 5 years, over 5 years since the CARICOM report, and there needs, I believe, to be some update. But in addition, we need also to be quite protective, because expect that even though we have goals of export, we are also a destination where we are going to see product come into the region, and so that may not be of the highest quality and so. And that's where in St. Vincent, we've been focused on achieving that high level of quality and training doctors, training pharmacists, training nurses and so forth, so that they have a better understanding of what's going on. And then engaging with cultivators to make sure they are able to raise their quality so that the product is one that is acceptable and so forth in many regards. I want to say, and I'll squeeze it in now, so I'll come back to it.
Yes, quickly, because I want to get back to the minister.
In November of this year, we are looking to have a medicinal cannabis festival in celebration of some of our achievements. 3 days where we're going to be talking about the cultivation, the innovation in cultivation and manufacture, the legal and regulatory framework. What's the impact of the United States reclassification on the region? We ought to look at the medical benefits as well as the harms. And we're looking at other plants such as the cohoba, the psilocybin, and other medicinal plants that we use today. So look forward to that. And we are hoping to start it off with a ministerial forum. I'm sure Minister Caesar will be contacting Minister Andrews to come to St. Vincent for that ministerial forum. But look forward to that particular big event. I apologize for breaking protocol and telling Minister Andrews about that now. I leave that to follow details from Minister Caesar to follow through.
Well, you broke protocol in the perfect place, on the Bubb Report. So, Minister Andrews, an invitation has been extended to you, sir. So I trust you.
I have already accepted the invitation.
I love it.
I spoke with last week while we were in Montserrat. He no longer needs to send me an invitation. I just want to know the details, and I'll be there.
Yes.
But as I have the floor, Kellogg,
yes, Minister. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to indicate to Shalisha that as a policy, as a government policy, is in fact geared towards declassifying marijuana, and of course the declassification has its components. But I want to say to you that it has to be done in a structured and in an orderly manner, in which the population gets involved and the population is fully aware of what is happening, so that in the end, that negative image that you referred to on the cannabis, that negative image can in fact go away, and the positive benefits of marijuana can in fact seen. Now, we are approaching the declassification at two levels. The first level has to do with decriminalization, and of course, amnesty. And I think you understand what that means. And the second one will be legislation, for the time being, for medicinal purposes. Now, we have given our committee, our present 6-man committee, we have given them specific directives and specific activities to be fulfilled by September. And so far, and Mr. Claude can expand, so far they have been working on achieving, if I could say, meeting their deadlines to, by the end of September, present a final report to the government for its consideration on how we're going to move the industry forward. So we want to do it in an orderly and in a structured manner. We want to get the whole nation involved in it, and therefore it will take a little time. It's not an overnight instant coffee approach that we are taking to it. So I just want to make that point.
Yes, and that's an important point in respect of incrementalism. But the first commission, Mr. Minister, was tasked with that mandate. And so I'm going to bring back Mr. Claude here. And so the question I asked was, what happened with that first commission, the work of that first commission?
I think the first commission,
yes, sir.
Mr. Claude was explaining, the first commission had its own constraints. Good. It was extremely large. I think there were around 16 of them. And it was difficult to have 16 of them to come together to meet at any point in time. So that's one.
Okay.
Secondly, even if they were to come together, 16 differing views being expressed can in fact create a problem for synergies and for harmonizations and for decision making. Yeah. So we thought, therefore, that a better approach would have been to try and keep the commission as small as possible, which would allow for easier to meet and for harmony and easier harmonization of decision making. And more than that, we would have provided that new commission with some specifics, very specifics that they have to get done with deadlines. Okay, so that they can now work towards achieving that, as against letting it open to them without any specific timeline. They don't have timelines to work with. And I think that's the difference between what existed before and what we have now.
Well, Dr.
Right.
Bubb,
And yes,
Min-
Mr. Cloud, I need you to jump in here as counsel. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
I think that the minister has eloquently expressed the reason for the inertia, as it were, in the last commission. I think he has
Or the lack of effective implementation. I know Mr. Andrews loves to cite those numbers in respect of implementation. So I don't know that the implementation rate here was a successful rate. But Mr. Clouden, over to you, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Bubb. As I have said, I think the minister is right. There were systemic problems with that commission, largely due to its size and the difficulty in getting consensus. We were able only to come up with the amended bill, recommended bill to amend the Principal Act, and even that haven't gone into implementation yet. But we are working now. This committee is much smaller. We are working indefatigably to meet our targeted goals. And I have no doubt whatsoever that we would have a decriminalized framework within the legislative authority, certainly by July, for the necessary amendments. And let me just tell you, Dr. Bubb, let me read a little example to you that highlights or as it were, amplifies the need for immediate action by way of an amendment to some of those draconian provisions of the Principal Act. Let me read a case. I'll be very brief. This is Calvin Evelyn PC 216, Officer Prosecution Department, 17 February 2022. And this is what he says, and this highlights the need for immediate amendment. Because it saddles young men and women with criminal records that is almost unavoidable. During the patrol at Paradise St. Andrews, I noticed a young man walking along the Paradise main road with a black bag across his body, walking away from the transport. He then looked at the transport and quickly turned away. That aroused my suspicion. No reasonable and probable grounds, just the manner in which a man is, as a pedestrian, is walking along the highway. I then exited the transport and approached him and identified myself. I then informed him of my suspicion. A search was conducted. He said, then, officer, I have a scissors and a little weed in my bag. The search revealed, no doubt, there was weed in a plastic bag. Let me go further down. I immediately cautioned him and asked him his reasons for having this in his possession. He then stated, I have just had it. I just have it. I then informed him of the offense, and he went to court under the Drug Control Act. The weed was valued at $602. He was then taken to the Cranbrook police station, where he gave his name to the diarist. I wouldn't call his name. 20 years sales clerk of Dunfermline St. Andrews. Okay? He's a 20 years sales clerk at Dunfermline St. Andrews. He was found guilty because the drug was found, the controlled drug was found in his possession, and as a consequence, he was saddled with a criminal record. Now, that is an injustice to this young man. But the magistrate had no alternative, notwithstanding the pronounced or announced government policy,
yes,
but to fine him and damage his future chances of university or tertiary educational opportunities.
Or other business opportunities, or other opportunities in general,
Indeed, indeed.
Absolutely.
So that we are working with great alacrity and with dispatch to ensure that we have an amended bill by July to take care of that area, and subsequently we move on to the legalization and setting up the medicinal cannabis authority and research, industrial use of hemp and the like,
And of course, we would then satisfy the Rastafarian community by giving them certain privileges on their own lands or making lands available to them for the use of cannabis by a religious body for religious purposes, religious and sacramental. That's where we are now, and we are moving forward with great speed to, as it were, establish a thriving cannabis industry in Grenada.
So what I hear you saying here is that this approach will be incremental, but that it will begin with a medicinal approach.
That is correct.
Okay. And I'm sure that is not something that Mr. Williams would be happy with. I see Mr. Williams is smiling here, but I suspect would there be any space for any conversation around provisions for limited recreational use?
Of course, there must be. There must be. Even there would be such a recommendation before the Cabinet of Ministers with respect to an allowable quantity. Once we amend Section 6.2 that says any quantity found anew would be visited by stringent penalties of $250,000 or 5 years in prison, we would have an allowable quantity in the amended bill so that you may move with 66 grams or 30 grams, as the case may be, for personal use. And of course, there would be regulations. We are looking at a regulatory framework. You can't smoke in public places, and public places will be properly defined in keeping with the legislation. You can't smoke around schools, or if you live close to a school, you can't smoke there. You know, the whole area, hospitals, public places would be defined in the legislation, and it would be prohibited for young people to be seen smoking. If they are seen smoking, they would be given a fixed penalty fine, and those who sell to persons under 18 would also be subject to severe punishment as a consequence, because they would have violated the law that permits only persons over 18 or 21, as the case may be, to smoke.
Okay. Mr. Williams, Mr. Andrews wants to come in, and so I'm going to bring in.
I just want to
yes, Mr. Andrews, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
In support of what the chairman is saying, my understanding is that at the committee's last meeting, they in fact look at those issues as enumerated by Chairman Clouden.
Yes.
And in fact, they are going to present to the cabinet. A submission is being made to the cabinet very soon on those issues for the cabinet consideration going forward. So they are in fact working, as you say, with alacrity to meet the deadlines. Yes.
Very well. Mr. Williams, I want to bring you in here. Now, Mr. Williams, on a previous marijuana program that we had here, you've been here with not Mr. Clouden or Mr. Andrew, but you've been here with Mr. Peter David before, as well as Mr. Saboto Caesar. And they have deemed your approach a bit radical, sir, in respect of wanting a full emancipation, if you will, of marijuana in the Caribbean, full legalization, because you feel as if that ship has sailed for us already, if you will. But in respect of what you've heard here, Mr. Williams, that incremental approach, looking at first medical, but also before that, expunging the criminal records of these young people, like the young man that Mr. Clouden just spoke about there. Let's hear your thoughts on those approaches that the government plans to implement, while acknowledging the slowness of the previous commission, given those structural issues that they had. But now, what we hear, what they're saying here now, is that there are very structured deadlines, and with the commitment to meet those deadlines. Mr. Williams.
Well, I hope my words wasn't misunderstood earlier.
Yes.
Our frustration doesn't mean that we don't accept and appreciate all and any efforts in the direction of this process. Let me just track back a little bit in terms of Mr. Clouden had anecdote, a story, and I will use myself. One of the best examples of how destructive this law is myself. I am a medical cannabis patient. I've been a medical cannabis patient for a long time. My doctor in California has prescribed and gave me a recommendation for using cannabis. I was pulled over by the police here and charged for my cannabis. I am in court right now for the same cannabis. The police came to my house, raided my house as a medical cannabis patient. Now, if I, as a medical cannabis patient with an actual doctor's prescription, is being told by law enforcement here that law enforcement will not recognize any out-of-state prescription, which makes no sense to me. However, we will recognize gun permits and driver's license from the same states. We have to look ourselves in the mirror and ask, are we insane? We're allowing people to come into Grenada and recognize the gun permits from California and a driver's license from California. But the doctor from the same state, California, that said I can use cannabis as a medicine, you're saying I cannot. So then I have to break the law. But if I break the law, I get charged.
Yeah, I think we lost Saisha there for a second. But Mr. Clouden, you've heard Mr. Williams' frustration there. Any thoughts on what he just articulated?
Well, indeed, as soon as the legislation is in place, there could be some temporary relief given to seriously ill patients, as was done in Germany. Even before they decriminalized and now legalized. Under Sections 12 of the Drug Prevention and Control Act, the minister has certain inherent authority to make regulations, to give certain concessions or exemption, as the case may be, so that Mr. Williams may very well be advised to engage the minister in that regard with respect to the Section 12 provision of the Drug Prevention and Control Act. But this is what happened as far back in Germany as 2016. I'm reading from Cannabis in Germany. On May 4, 2016, the Cabinet of Germany approved legislation allowing the use of cannabis for seriously ill patients who have consulted with a doctor and have no therapeutic alternative. German Health Minister Hermann Grosch presented the legal draft on the legislation for medical cannabis to the cabinet, which took effect on 10th March 2017. License will be given by Federal Institute for Drugs and Medical Devices to companies for growing medical cannabis and also import according to strict EU GMP standards. As Dr. Thompson was speaking of earlier, St. Vincent and the Grenadines would have complied, no doubt, with the EU GMP standards, which is of high quality, required of the preparation of cannabis for medicinal purposes. So that some steps could be taken, I think, whereby the minister can exercise his prerogative under Sections 12 of the Drug Prevention and Control Act. That's my take on it.
Yes.
Very well. Yes. Dr. Thompson, please, and then I'm going to bring back Mr. Williams.
I want to certainly support what Mr. Clouden has said. I want to say in St. Vincent, we have added another measure. And this is a kind of a non-legislative process of tolerance. We had substantial discussions with the Royal St. Vincent Grenadines Police Force, top brass, as well as all the various members, several meetings with them to explain the act and how we were going to approach it. And clearly, it could not be a situation that because of the INCB and these international things, there are certain things you can't put into legislative processes or take some time to do so. But what we did, we introduced this process of tolerance so that Mr. Williams, his own process could have fallen into that particular category. Certainly in time, I'm sure the legislation would cover his aspects and so forth. But in terms of simple possession, and I think the two examples of the destruction in persons, and guess what? The United Nations has said they don't want to see those kind of human rights violations. But there are countries in the world today that are still putting people to death, you understand, and have severe penalties for these type of things. And I think that in the Caribbean, you know, we can move in this particular process such that there isn't this penalization and there isn't this level for simple personal possession. Now, the big issue, Mr. Williams, is going to come with the larger quantities that are found and the suspicion that it's intended for trafficking and other things like that. And I think that's where the issue is. But I think the simple possession is a very simple process. Whatever legislative process has been put in place, plus the process of tolerance, and that's going to involve a lot of discussion with the police. So the police are not following just the letter of the law. They understand that there's a process in place. And in between, they are going to exercise some element of tolerance in the meantime as well.
I'm in total agreement with that.
Yes, Mr. Williams, I see you nodding as well. So I suspect that approach that we see in St. Vincent and the Grenadines perhaps needs to be adopted in Grenada as well, Mr. Clouden.
Indeed, it and should be.
And
St. Vincent is way ahead of us, and I hadn't extended my appreciation for seeing.
And I think the minister to add something here as well.
Yeah, I want to say, Mr. Williams, I want to give you a little bit of consolation, and I'm not happy to hear what has transpired with you, given what we want to achieve. But as part of the work of the committee, of its reclassification and legislative reform, right, specifically as regards decriminalization and depenalization, the intention is to have that in place by June of this year. Good, that's the intention. Have that in place by June of this year, so that come that time, a person like yourself would not be faced with that negatives that you have been facing with for your health purposes, for your health reasons. I just want to make that point to you, and my empathy for what you are going through right now.
Yes, Mr. Williams, sorry, your internet got cut off there. So it would appear as if progress has been made, slow but steady, Mr. Williams. But to get outside of that issue there, in respect of police enforcement and the need for discretionary enforcement, what are some other areas you're hoping that perhaps if you were consulted? I know that the government intends to have a public cannabis consultation on Monday, the 3rd of June at 8 p.m. It does not say the location, but I'm sure Mr. Clouden or the minister can give us more information on that. What other recommendations would you put forward, Mr. Williams, and I'll get to Mr. Clouden, in respect of what the framework for the marijuana environment should look like in Grenada? Mr. Williams?
Well, before we got caught, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Before we got cut off, you had mentioned my radicalness in terms of my view towards it, and
yes,
I will only address that piece in the sense that if you look at the cannabis industry, fear is the underlying reason why we're here today. The reason why most of the laws, as Brother Clouden said, is draconian, is because of fear. Now, it'll be very sad that we take up this process right now to change this law that was based in fear, in and from a fear perspective. Do you understand what I'm saying? If we're going to look at changing the law that fear created, why are we being fearful about changing that law. Not having a fearful outlook in that process, I don't see as being radical. I see that as common sense. So I'm going to leave that there. In terms of recommendations
Absolutely.
for the committee, one of the things, the amnesty is a good thing. One of the things that we were very, very focused on is the expunging of all criminal records that has to do with cannabis that did not have violence in their committance of their act. And the onus on the government, not on the civilian, to go through those records retroactively and expunge all of them without any cost to the civilian whatsoever or any hardship. This must be done to be able to first free up a lot of our population to even be able to get into the industry of cannabis that's about to come. Secondly, New York has taken an approach where, and a couple other places did it, where the people that were previously wronged by cannabis laws must give it an opportunity, especially the Rastafari community, to get up to speed and in terms of leveling the playing field for those people. If we're saying that the laws were unjust and draconian and it penalized a certain group of people, when that law is now changed and people can legally participate in that industry, those people should be at the front of the lines for permits, licenses, these types of things. If not, what we're saying is we're punishing the people twice, because we're admitting that what was done to them was wrong. And if we're going to look at reparations for those people, I'm not of the view of giving money and this, that, and the third. I'm of the view of creating a playing field where those people can actually utilize and maximize their ability in this industry so that they could become owners of the industry and not just a worker and an employee. If at the end of the day, what we're fighting for is to get another job for our Grenadian people, I think we failed, especially in this particular industry where we can create ownership for our people in this industry. So putting those people who are wronged up front so that they can have a foot up so they can get back on two legs since we chopped one of them off, that's one of the recommendations that we think would be very, very instrumental, especially in terms of looking out for poor people. Another thing that we spoke about from even since the first day we started speaking about it is we cannot allow large cultivation of cannabis in Grenada without a marrying of food cultivation at the same time. So anyone wants to plant big plantations of weed, you must show an ability to plant the same amount of food or more at the same time. And if you cannot do that, I don't think our government should allow those people to, whether local or foreign, to plant that type of weed here, because we already import 80% of our food. And lastly, in terms of having foreign investment, we need to be very careful in crafting this bill that it protects our local people in terms of ownership of the industry. I'm all for foreign investment and we should get as much as we can, but we keep selling and not leasing, if you understand what I'm saying. They cannot take the land and the building when they leave, but we keep selling land and buildings, which don't make no sense. Metaphorically, for the cannabis industry, that would be a debt now. If I'm not mistaken, Brother Clouden had went to St. Vincent a couple months ago, and he gave a report that said, I think and Brother Thompson can correct me if I'm wrong, the permits, the legal permits for dispensaries or the legal cannabis business in St. Vincent are owned by foreigners, not local. If I'm mistaken, please correct me, because I would not want that to happen in Grenada.
Yes, and I'm going to bring in Mr. Thompson and then Mr. Cloud.
Yes, yeah. Let me make
Mr. Thompson.
Yes, no, that is not true. As a matter of fact, in St. Vincent, I should be very careful how I say this in terms of guiding Jamaica, but the traditional
I don't want you to get in trouble with your minister.
No, not at all. I'm talking about in terms of how I influence you there and create disruptive issues. But in St. Vincent, the traditional cultivator receives a free medicinal cannabis license. All they do is they pay $100 for the application, 100 EC for the application fee. We have several companies that are local cultivators. They were not traditional cultivators before. They're all local Vincentians. And we have, in terms of what would be considered foreign, the major company is actually Vincentian owned. Now, I want to add that especially the elderly, some of them may not necessarily want to smoke or vape. And I'm surprised I got to say, if I could say this on radio, in Barbados, they do not permit smoking or vaping of cannabis, which means that it's only the drop of oil we put under the tongue or capsules or various other forms of the oil in tinctures and so forth. Now, in St. Vincent...
Or edibles, gummies. They probably have
or edibles, gummies, and so forth.
Yeah.
But this is where GMP comes in. And in St. Vincent, there's been over $30 million invested in the cannabis industry, in the sense that it does require some substantial investment to get it right, to be able to meet the quality standards that are going to meet international GACP standards and GMP standards. Now, the ability to produce cannabis for smoking, I think, is quite simple, and GACP is fine for that. But in terms of a substantial portion of your population may well want the other products. They're the elderly. They've gotten really interested in these special creams that you rub against your knees for arthritis. You know, how do you make
Shall
those?
we say the modern day soft candle? The modern day soft candle.
Well, yes, you know, it's true. Somebody, we used to call it needing somebody. Needed, you know, somebody goes and needed the cannabis. But the cannabis is absorbed through the skin and basically has that effect on those particular type of arthritic, painful areas and so forth. So it's very interesting in that regard. But how do you make it on a consistent basis? So that's one of the challenges that's made. The entities who you give licenses to, their abilities to move with it. Now, of course, the government may choose to make funding available or a certain amount to the various companies. We haven't necessarily done that to a degree, you know what I mean? But I think that it's an area that has to certainly be looked at. But you do need manufactured products. But what's going to happen as the United States reclassifies? You are going to see a flood load of products coming down from California, right? Where Mr. Williams says, come in, and you would see visitors bringing their own stuff and saying, I don't need to buy here because it's now reclassified to Schedule 3. I can carry it on a plane now and so forth. So we got to look at all these sort of things. And at the regional level, I invite Grenada, once they've legalized, to become part of our Caribbean Forum so that collectively, on the whole concept of the CARICOM Treaty, we have some sort of unified policy. But in relation to that discussion that our companies and so forth are all foreign-based, we have some foreign-based companies, but we have local-based foreignties. The top, I shouldn't say this, but you know, the most prominent company that is manufacturing and so forth and producing a whole set of products is locally owned.
Mr. Clouden, I wanted you to add this, and then we'll take a break.
Well, I think my brother Williams may have misquoted me. I was so impressed with the preparation of the medicinal cannabis. I visited a few sites, and on the guidance of Dr. Thompson, who was so eloquent in explaining the scientific and medicinal aspect to us, myself and Nandi Noel, who had visited. And one of the Canadian investors, we visited his plot, and he said he had to invest over $20 million to maintain the quality and standard that is required for export. So in that context, I may have referred to the initial capital outlay to get the industry going as it should. But certainly not, I can't recall or would not have said that it's controlled by foreign investors. But I don't know that.
No.
I just visited that particular site. It was a huge greenhouse preparation there, and they took us. They had their own little laboratory on the side, and he was explaining to us the need to maintain quality, and if you don't, the entire crop would be abandoned, and you have to start de novo. So that
Very well.
That's the type of outlay, output of initial capital that's required in the preparation of medicinal cannabis.
Very well. Viewers and listeners, what we will do now, we will come up for air. And at this point, I'm coughing not because of any substance, okay, that was consumed before the program, and I said that in jest. But we're going to take a quick break and come back for some recommendations and moving forward in respect of what the industry might look like in Grenada, and take viewer comments as well. Please stand by.
Should your loved ones pass on, they deserve to be treated with dignity. And at S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, we can provide you with that service. We can take you every step of the way during your sorrowful moments. When that need arises, call S.A. Johnson Funeral Home at 347-777-9797. That's 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home is a Caribbean family-owned funeral home here in Brooklyn, providing funeral services, but in a dignified way. From cremation to burial to the repatriation of your loved ones, you don't have to go through the hassle, as we provide exceptional service that allows you to mourn and heal peacefully. For more information, visit our website, www.sajohnsonfuneral.org. Send us an email at sajfuneral@aol.com or call 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, because you deserve to be treated with dignity.
Dr. Bubb and the Bubb Report. I must report that this is one of my favorite programs on Facebook. Sometimes I miss the program on a Sunday and I have to rewatch it at another time during the week when I have the time, or later the Sunday evening, and I always prefer to view the program live because I appreciate that, you read the comments. If it's an important comment, you try to incorporate it in your program. And let me tell you something, Dr. Bubb, you're great at what you do. You ask the hard questions, you ask the right questions. You're doing an excellent job. I must commend you. It is a much needed program. I wish you can do more of it, but I understand, time constraints and your own personal life and the production that it requires, but keep it up. As an intellectual myself, I appreciate it. The information that comes out from your program is phenomenal. It's educating. Sometimes it's laughable, but I love it. Big up to the Bubb Report, and we love the Bubb Report. We're looking forward to 4 more years, 10 more years, 20 more years. God bless.
To the Bubb Report, Dr. Bubb and his team, I take this opportunity to extend hearty congratulations to you on the 4th anniversary of your program. Your commitment to professional journalism, storytelling, and unearthing the truth, regardless of the consequences, are commendable. You stand as a beacon of professional journalism in Grenada, the diaspora, regionally and internationally. I wish you continued success in the future and continued growth of your program. Personally, I want to continue encouraging you to engage in the highest standards of journalism, and on behalf of the government and people of Grenada, we certainly appreciate that a free press An independent press is vital to a democracy, and we wish to encourage you to continue playing that role. Best wishes for your future growth and development. Thank you.
And viewers and listeners, welcome back to this week's edition of the Bubb Report. Of course, this is the Bubb Report's 4th anniversary broadcast edition. And please leave comments in the chat in respect of where you are watching or listening to us from. I do know that there is a niche audience in Grenada of mothers and aunties and uncles who listen to the Bubb Report from the comfort of their kitchen, preparing their Sunday meal. So I want to especially shout out those folks who might not be glued to their screens, but who are using the Bubb Report to not only intellectually stimulate their minds, but as part of their meal prep. And of course, the Bubb Report can certainly be part of your lunch conversations when those conversations are being had. So please leave those comments in the chat and let us know where you're watching the program from. But I'm going to bring back the panelists here, and we're going to get to. We have lots of viewer questions here. I'm sure those questions as well, gentlemen, will come up in the public consultation that the government intends to have starting next month. But Mr. Hudson George is saying Caribbean countries don't have anything to gain from the marijuana industry except most social ills. I think that's what he was trying to say, such as crimes and mental illnesses. If the marijuana industry is profitable for Caribbean farmers, most likely the big multi corporations will invest, let me read that again, will invest in large marijuana plantations in Central and South America, the same way they did with the banana industry when they favored Chiquita bananas over Caribbean bananas. Additionally, recreational drugs create more social problems. Gentlemen, quickly, I want you to chime in on Mr. George's take here.
Well, I defer to Dr. Thompson, who is the...
Yes.
Dr. Thompson, yes.
If I could say, I just came back from Colombia.
Okay.
And 2 weeks ago, we did a tour. Their major production is cocaine. And the Andean countries, during the pandemic, there was a surge in the production of cocaine. And because of a lack of shipment and lack of transport, the price of cocaine paste has come down. Right now, there's a massive surge of crack cocaine use in Africa, in Europe, and I think it's going to take place in the Caribbean. That's where we should be concerned about. It's instructive that the United States is now thinking about reclassifying cannabis, because there are already synthetic cannabis products that are now out on the market in Schedule 3. So why should cannabis be in Schedule 1 and synthetic cannabis products in Schedule 3? And that's why they're looking to do that. But they were the main ones to push that whole process over the last 60-something years. And over the 60-something years, we have had it in our minds that what the Rastafari are doing is wrong. We've looked down on them, and cannabis is the worst thing out. But I have proven as a medical doctor that there are over 20 medical benefits, pain control. There's a system in our body, and because that is not so well known, that whole education process will have to take place to write the knowledge and put it in the right frame that used properly, medicinal cannabis can be of significant impact and lower cost of production. Cost of some medication today are super high. Remember, the synthetic cannabinoids I'm telling you about are over $1,000 each. Why do you want to pay that? Now, so that the medical benefits is going to take some time for people to truly understand it. But I think that will eventually get through, and that that opinion of the individual will certainly change. And I think we can make this a Caribbean-focused approach so that there isn't the international incursion that might take place otherwise.
Very well. Let's get to another comment here. Respectfully, the aggressive approach of immediate legalization would have to violently kick down doors of religious conservatism, mental health issues related to cannabis misuse, and decades of established legal scheduling in Grenada. Let's get it right. However, I am for the quest to reverse the regressive trend of marijuana demonization in our region. Mr. Clouden, you want to tackle that from Mr. Brian Grimes, a trade unionist?
That's quite.
It's the first time you have grown cold feet there, sir.
Well, to be quite honest, I follow the line of reasoning of Dr. Thompson when it comes to the medicinal benefits.
Yes.
To be derived from cannabis. Now, look, it's all the Rastafarians have started over a century ago. Not their claim has its genesis in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, and this is a religious claim. If you look at 29, you'll see that the Lord gave us every tree, every seed, every fruit to heal us. And therefore, we are only now discovering, after years of brainwashing and psychological conditioning, social engineering, that cannabis is so detrimental. The science seems to say that young children between the ages of 1 to 18 ought not to indulge. But that seemed to be by way of smoking, because I looked at the program with Dr. Sandra Gupta on CNN. It's called Weed 1, 2, and 3. You had this infant who suffered from chronic epilepsy, epileptic seizures, and they had to leave the state of New Jersey and travel to Colorado, where the infant was treated, and subsequently the violent periodic seizures abated to the extent that it was non-existent for a good many years. So that we have been psychologically brainwashed. The Rastafarians have been using this drug from time immemorial with positive results. So that if we have institutions, some people's constitution are just not conducive to smoking, and if you're of a tender age, then we must, in our legislative framework.
Mr. Clouden, you have a guest there. Is that your?
Leave it. Let him be. That's right. He's part of the conversation.
And that's all right. He wants to be part of the conversation. Hello, young man. Welcome to the Bubb Report. You'll be a future guest, future lawyer.
Exactly. So that is where we are going.
Yes.
We should move full speed ahead. The chances that persons selling to underage persons will be penalized. The legislative framework for them. Anyone acting outside of that framework would be penalized. If there's medical conditions, we have institutions that would address those conditions. But I don't think a blanket statement have been made by some people that marijuana is so deleterious, it's toxic to the body, and it should be discouraged. We shouldn't decriminalize it. I am not persuaded by that line of reasoning.
Mr. Williams, do you want to add anything to what was said by that viewer?
Yes, very much so. Two things. One, the fear about crime increasing, the empirical data does not reflect that. For all the countries and all the states that have tried this already, the empirical data does not support an increase in crime or violence or anything like that when the laws concerning cannabis is changed. As a matter of fact, most of the times the data shows a reversal. Crime goes down, people's quality of life, their health improves, because now they're not afraid of breaking the law and having to go into dark alleys to access things that they can do in the light. Secondly, it was mentioned that the church or the religious something In Grenada, there's a fear that the churches has been the stumbling block to cannabis reform. And I must say, that has been a wrong opinion. It has been guided by some people who made statements. But those people, I'm not sure, actually went and sat down with the churches and spoke with them. I did. I've spoken with the churches here, and the churches are in favor of changing the law on cannabis in Grenada. They would just like to see an adult approach towards it, where it regulates it in a way where children cannot readily get their hands on it. The issue with the church that we have found out is actually smoking, and they don't care what you smoke. They just don't like smoking at all. So we need to be careful when we say certain things. The last big symposium that was done during the previous administration, that symposium on cannabis was not done by the NNP administration. That was done by the Council of Churches. They're the ones that put that on. I think his name was Bishop Harvey or Pastor Harvey or whoever that was. He almost had me going to church. Yeah, he almost had me going to church because his statement, if I'm not mistaken, was like, "Why is the government dragging its feet on this issue?" Amen. I'm in the boat. Let's go. So those two things we need to address. Lastly, the Caribbean as a diaspora has roughly about 40 million people, give or take.
Yes.
We have a product which traditionally is used by many people in the Caribbean for everything from health to religion and everything in between. We have a tourist industry that's big in the Caribbean that most people that come here, the first thing they say is, well, weed is legal. It's not. They think it's legal throughout the whole entire Caribbean. Now, it is odd that we have our economy based mostly on tourism and agriculture. We have an agricultural product that tourists use, but we don't have a legal framework for our local people to access that market or for the foreigner to participate in that market in a legal way that will make us money. Now, to run away from that, remember earlier, to me, is sticking your head in the sand and acting like the sun doesn't shine. We don't need to stick our head in the sand in fear anymore. There is research. We have data. We can do this in an adult-like manner where we address cannabis in a holistic way that when we're finished, we actually have something that the world will be envious of.
Very well, very well. I'm not too sure if Minister Andrew, I'm going to bring you in here, sir. Just give me 1 minute. Yes.
I just want to
go ahead, sir. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to refer to the comment that government is not moving with alacrity to get these things done.
Yes.
Government would have given the committee specific actions and timelines. We have given them a plan, and we're giving them dates by which that activities in those plans are to be fulfilled. And I made it clear before that by the end of June of this year, the declassification, which has to do with the decriminalization and the depenalization, that reforms should be in place by the end of.
I think we lost Minister Andrews there, and I'm going to bring back Mr. Cloud. But again, Mr. Andrews the minister was responding to a comment made by a viewer there that the government was moving a bit slow on this issue here. But let's get to some other viewer comments here. A gentleman, Jose Ernesto, is saying, we have seen how much the economy of St. Vincent benefits from the legalization of marijuana without having to sell their passports or being part of the CBI question. I see Dr. Thompson is smiling there. Of course, St. Vincent does not have a CBI program, as we know. Do we see the same happening in Grenada once we legalize marijuana, that we don't have to depend on the CBI? And perhaps that's a bigger policy question that the minister can answer when he returns. Let's get to another viewer comment. Sheldon Sylvester, who's watching from Brooklyn, New York. Welcome, Mr. Sylvester. He said, I was given a ticket for just being a Rasta driving. They would have handled me differently if I was not a visitor. But I was still harassed by the Royal Grenada Police Force, by their officers. I'm not going to say that the officers are dunce. I think, our police officers are public servants, and irrespective of whatever we think of them, they still provide human service to the country. Let's get to some other viewer comments.
One day, if I could just, so sorry about that.
Yes,
but
Dr. Thompson, go ahead, please.
You know something? New York State, Virginia, several other states, the highest level of stoppages and simple possession arrests that are made is among Black people of color. And it's a kind of epidemic in the United States. So it's interesting, the gentleman from New York saying something happened when he came to say visit. I tell you, New York was one of the worst states. Now, they have gone and legalized, but the years of what they take place, I don't know if he encountered any problems whilst in New York as well.
Very well. And we have another comment.
He was mentioning his visit to Grenada.
I think it's Grenada, not St. Vincent. Grenada.
No. Yes, I know that. I know you mentioned to Grenada. Yes, I know. But what I'm saying is that compared to his encounter in Grenada, compared to that in the United States, in New York, that's what I meant.
Very well. Okay. Very well. Okay. Understandable there. All right. In my opinion, Onika is saying, a regular viewer of ours. Welcome, Onika. Good to see you. In my opinion, the legalization of cannabis in Grenada will be very beneficial. Expunge the records of past offenders and allow locals to benefit economically. Yes, as a Seventh-day Adventist, the church is against smoking. So it's good to hear from someone of faith, especially a faith such as the Seventh-day Adventist. Someone from that congregation is making that point. So I'm glad you articulated.
I'm sorry to come in one more time, Mr.
Yes,
Williams.
go ahead, Dr. Thompson.
We met with a series of churches. We met extensively with our Seventh-day Adventist church, and they said in their own, provisions at one point in time, they were against it. But anything that's medicinal and so forth, they were in favor of, whilst it was medicinal, and they did not distinguish between smoking and oils and all that sort of stuff. They said all of it was okay.
Very well. Minister Andrews, we lost you there. I wanted you to finish your train of thought, and then we'll take our final break and come back with closing comments. Minister?
Yes. So thanks, Dr. Bob. No, I was saying that as a government, we are very serious about what we set ourselves to do for the cannabis industry. We have given the committee a plan and deadlines to meet, and in that deadline will be the declassification, which has to do with the depenalization and the decriminalization, and we are saying that these things have to be done and put in place by June of this year. And based on my recent discussions I had with the committee, the last meeting took place, I think, on last week Thursday, and in that discussion, they in fact they delved into those aspects as regards decriminalization, expunging records from people's files, right?
Yes.
So all of that we are working on putting that in place very quickly. I also want to add, in keeping with Dr. Thompson's vision, that it will be nice that when the industry in Grenada gets going, that we can take a regional approach towards the development of our cannabis industry, and Grenada will be happy to work with St. Vincent and the other countries that are moving forward in that regard.
Very well. Gentlemen, we want to take a quick break, and we'll come back for some closing comments on this very important conversation. Of course, we're looking forward to what those consultations would look like and the implementation framework. I'm sure, Mr. Williams, you are looking forward to that as well with great alacrity. Stand by, viewers and listeners. We'll be back to wrap up the program.
We enter an era of falling journalism standards, an era in which, because of the actions of the political directorate, the structure of media has been significantly diluted, and prominent practitioners of the art have moved out of the profession to some extent. In comes the Bubb Report. It is 4 years since we've had the Bubb Report. Happy anniversary to Dr. Bubb. Happy anniversary to the Bubb Report. 4 years in which The standard of journalism has been lifted. The standard of neutrality in the profession has been lifted. The standard of fairness in the profession has been lifted. And most importantly, the Bubb Report over those past 4 years has been speaking truth to power, holding the power structure accountable, questioning, challenging, probing with veracity and intensity, the hallmark of true journalism. Compliments to Dr. Bubb, compliments to the Bubb Report. Happy 4th anniversary. Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Bubb and team. Congratulations on your accomplishment. 4 long years of the Bubb Report.
Dr. Bubb, congratulations to you and the team. 4 years of excellence, 4 years of dedication, 4 years of providing the diaspora, the Grenadian public with information. You have done extremely well. Your guests are excellent. They are experts in their field. They know what they're about. They know what they're talking about. One of the impressive things also is the fact that each storyteller gets the opportunity to appear on the show. Now, he or she may not accept the invitation, but you let us know that they were invited. And at the end of it, when the stories are told, we as the audience are in a good position to make our own analysis of the facts that were presented.
The word is balance.
Balance.
Right.
Balance. Excellent.
And the balance I like is how you and your team going to go back into the archives to provide context. You go back into the archives to provide updates and to just give us general information. You know, we can count on you for factual information, well-researched information. And so tonight, this evening, we just want to lift our glasses to you and say Godspeed. You have become a staple during our breakfast after church on Sunday mornings. So cheers to more. Best wishes.
And viewers and listeners, welcome back to this week's edition of the Bubb Report. Of course, that was the power couple, public servant power couple in Grenada, Brenda Lee Johnson James, and my comrade, my fellow trade union comrade, Mr. Kenny James, offering greetings to the Bubb Report. And so I know they're watching now. So thank you again for your congratulations, and our commitment to you, as I said at the beginning of the program, is to continue to ensure that we can have these very important conversations on national development in a very dispassionate and neutral way with respect for all sides of an issue. But I want to bring back this esteemed panel for some closing comments. Dr. Thompson, your minister, Mr. Saboto Caesar, he's not here, but certainly you represented St. Vincent and the Grenadines well today. So I want to go over to you, sir, for beginning with some closing comments.
Yes,
Tee us off with
well,
some
let me
closing
say
comments.
our minister, Saboto Caesar, as well as the Prime Minister, have instructed us at the MCA that we must cooperate with all Caribbean entities that are engaging in any form of agricultural or medicinal cannabis reform. And we've hosted Jamaica, we've hosted Antigua, St. Lucia, Barbados, and also Grenada. We've had the Prime Minister of St. Kitts that came to St. Vincent, one of the farms and so forth. The important thing I want to say is that our experience is that 50% of the persons receiving medical cannabis prescriptions are female. And there's been a shift to an older grouping, and they're using medicinal cannabis for sleep disorders, anxiety, but mainly for pain management, as well as appetite stimulation, a number of other things that is allowed for. And it's very interesting because some medication are just so expensive, and this is actually a cost savings to many persons. We've got a good system going. I believe that there are some international threats. The international threats are going to come from other drugs, fentanyl, right? 106,000 people dying in the United States from fentanyl, cocaine, Molly, as well as synthetic cannabis coming into our region. We have to be careful about these particular things. Matter of fact, we feel that the use of cannabis in St. Vincent has prevented some of this incursion. But the important thing I got to leave with is November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Mr. Bubb, I want to invite you to St. Vincent de Grenada as well, Mr. Williams. And so it's going to be amazing. We can expect cultural performances, international cultural performances. There's going to be a traditional cultivators village, Mr. Williams. You know, I don't want to explain what that's going to be all about, as well as expo. But the important thing is education on how to grow, how to manufacture, the legal regulatory reform, as well as the medical benefits and other type of plants that may not be cannabis that have medicinal value in the Caribbean. So with that, I want to thank you very much. Congratulations on your 4 years. And I certainly, we're always very pleased to participate in this way. And I want to congratulate, Minister Andrews and so forth for this bold initiative. And we St. Vincent is willing to always partner with you in this regard. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Very well. Mr. Williams.
Well, first of all, thank you, sir, Mr. Thompson, for the invitation. I will definitely take you up on that. And Mr. Andrews, thank you for your guidance on the situation that I find myself in right now. Also, Mr. Clouden, thank you very much for your guidance. I think Grenada stands at a point in history where we have an opportunity to do something that at the end of the day, we might actually look back at it and raise it to the level or even higher than what how people look at the revolution here. Grenada's history is riddled with great accomplishments of things that changed the diaspora for all the people in the diaspora, not just Grenadians, from organized labor to even the first Black Miss Universe.
Malcolm X on the occasion of African Liberation Day. Let's not forget him.
You see what I'm saying? So we as the Jamaican saying is, we lick about we talawa, and it would be remiss of us to give up this opportunity to craft what can be a bill that is envied by the world. At the end of this process, we can have a situation where our people are freed from the shackles of this particular law to explore the cannabis plant in every facet, from medicine to recreation to industrial usage and everything in between. From this day forward, we need to converse in a way that accepts that the church is not a stumbling block to this process. We need to converse in a way that allows us to not look at cannabis from a fear standpoint, but from a confidence standpoint that what we're about to do will lead us to a better place than where we have been already. So far, we've had crimes involved in it, people losing their lives, their livelihood, their freedoms, their ability to make for themselves. So I'm glad and I'm feeling better today that, based on what the minister has said, that the administration is serious about this particular process and actually crafting something that will change the lives of Grenadian people. So I look forward to the end of June to see how this process plays out. And I'm willing to lend my support and help and ability to anything that can get it done in a more expeditious manner. And
very well, because Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Williams, because you came in here with a sense of pessimism, but I'm glad you're leaving with a sense of optimism, guided by the minister's public declarations. Mr. Clouden, over to you for some closing comments, sir.
Well, I envisage that Grenada would have one of the leading cannabis industry in the entire Eastern Caribbean. I have a premonition that if we have the legislative framework in place, we are going one step further than our neighbors in that we are going to legalize personal or recreational use. We are going to give due consideration to religious and sacramental use. We're going to give paramount consideration to medicinal use. And I think that given the industrious nature of our people, we are pretty much on the road for economic recovery. This is going to create tremendous levels of employment. It's a multifaceted industry, and I look forward to great things happening in the future for us as a nation, with a visionary prime minister and a young cabinet with him. It's unimaginable what can take place in Grenada as we progress from time to time.
And over to you, Mr. Andrews. Just unmute your mic, sir. Your mic is muted. But I noticed, Mr. Andrew, as you get ready to tee up your closing comments, you did not have your signature tie today. I was hoping to see that signature tie.
I suppose I will have that tie for you when we meet in our more formal discussions. All right,
right. Very well. Okay. So, all right, over to you, sir. Yes.
Yes, but I want to say how thankful I am to you, Dr. Bob, for putting together some of the finest minds that we have in our sub-region relative to that very important issue of cannabis. The intervention that we received from Dr. Thompson and, of course, from Shalisha Williams, they too would help us to shape and to guide the industry that we would want to create in Grenada. I do believe very firmly that this industry is one that can, in fact, lead to a major transformation of our economy and of our people, not just in terms of bringing benefits in terms of income, employment, and output, but also creating that level of social justice that I think is that we need in our society. I think that industry has that ability to create that social justice that we need in our industry, in our country. And so I said before, our Prime Minister, Dickon Mitchell, is actually behind my back. He has just sent me a few days ago a question: where are we, given the fact that on the 24th of March, Cabinet took a decision relative to the cannabis industry. He asked me that question: where are we? How is the committee progressing? Is the committee meeting? And I've provided him with the appropriate response. So we have the full cabinet involved with this new industry that we want to create for the benefit of our people. I want to say to Dr. Thompson that I thank him for his invitation. I certainly would find the time to go across to St. Vincent to be part of that engagement, so I can learn a lot more and I can prepare our country much better for that very important industry that we want to create in Grenada. I know there are many people right now in Grenada who are using cannabis. Young ladies have approached me and said to me that they are in fact using the marijuana tree to help them solve some of the basic health problems that they are having right now. I hope that with the consultation that we're going to have coming up next week, that they would be brave enough to come out and speak and let the country know the importance of that drug, or I like to call it drug, but that medicine to them. They can give the examples what they are now going through and how the medicine, the medicinal part of the cannabis is useful for them in their lives. So all in all, Dr. Bob, I am motivated much more by the discussion. I feel very much encouraged that what we do in Grenada is good, and is good for the country, and is good for our people, and we will work without rest. And I have full confidence in the committee that has been set up, headed by our lawyer, to help us take this industry forward in a very organized and structured manner for the benefit of our Grenadians. Thank you very much.
Yes, and Mr. Andrews, before you leave, we did not get the time to deal with this issue, but of course, Grenada and the Caribbean is experiencing an unprecedented drought of epic proportions. Nawasa has struggled with water supply issues. How has the drought affected farmers and the agricultural sector? And do you find as if your ministry has had to implement measures to support our farmers during this difficult time?
Yes, so you are quite right. And we have, in fact, taken measures to give the farmers our support to ensure that they have adequate water supply during this special period. So we met with the police, the IGPF, we met with Nawasa, we met with farmers in the area, and that is mainly in the area of the Maribor area, where we have our propagation station and is responsible for the production of the majority of our plants. We met with all of them, and we would have already taken some measures to ensure that we have adequate water supply. Nawasa is working with us quite a lot. They have been ensuring that all dams, there are no leakages. Where there are leakages, they are blocking up those leakages. They are putting in valves to regulate the amount of water. We met with the villagers, we met with the farmers, we took certain decisions that they are aware of and they are complying with. And those measures put together can, in fact, mitigate the negative effect of the shortage that we are having of water in the country right now. So things are a little bit better now as far as the Maribor propagation station is concerned, and its ability to be able to produce enough plantlets for our farmers when the season starts in June.
Absolutely. Ms. Andrew, thank you again for appearing on the program. See, that was painless, sir. Let your other colleagues know that we motivate people on the Bubb Report, as you said. So thank you, sir, for appearing on the program this week. Okay. Yeah. All right, viewers and listeners, this was a very important conversation on the way forward for marijuana legalization, decriminalization, a very important restorative justice element to this as well, in respect of expunging criminal records of persons who were, in my respectful view, unjustly criminalized for having small quantities of marijuana in a very non-violent way. So this is a very important conversation in respect of what the future would look like for marijuana legalization and decriminalization in Grenada. Of course, as a reminder, there is also an upcoming public consultation that will be happening in Grenada, and that consultation would be looking at what the future of the marijuana landscape should look like. And of course, you as the public are strongly encouraged, highly encouraged to participate in those public education activities. On behalf of the producers of the Bubb Report, I'm your humble host, Dr. Kellen Bubb, wishing everyone a pleasant week. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Don't go there.
You are a technocrat. I mean, you can speak to whether or not it was appropriate or inappropriate for that to occur. Would you have done that as a permanent secretary?
Politicians get the information from wherever source that they can.
That's going to be the extent of your answer.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
There's a lot of noise around the data protection bill that, in my respectful view, is not warranted.
I was one of those making noise, and it's simply because I was concerned about that specific section 33.
Don't go there.
Are you going to be offering yourself up as political leader of the party?
I see you've called me have a much more than diplomatic passport. I don't mind that.
Don't go there.
What is the relationship like between you and your leader, Dr. Mitchell, your boss, Dr. Mitchell.
I'm not sure how to explain how to answer this question at this time. I prefer not to answer.
Don't go there.
They said that you approached the bank for the loan before the election and that it only materialized after the election. There are also conflicting reports around the quantity of monies that were received. What is the reality here?
People try to extort the truth and to make all kinds of things about it. I just stay quiet. So if you notice, I was really and truly quiet about the whole matter.
Well, except with not with the New Today newspaper. The New Today newspaper reported on this, so I'm not sure you were quiet on this. Go ahead, Honorable. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just trying to answer your question, right?
Don't go there.
I think we just spoke at length about the regularization framework. So
yes, we did. But let us talk, Prime Minister. Let us talk about the workers who are dismissed.
The Bubb Report. We go there.